You stole my ring. Billionaire accuses Black Waitress of theft, but the shocking truth will leave you speechless. What if you found a diamond ring worth millions, but the price of keeping it could cost you everything? Tasha Walker moved through the upscale Atlanta restaurant like a shadow, her tray balanced with practiced ease. At 29, she'd mastered the art of invisibility, smiling just enough to charm the patrons, dodging their subtle slights with a quiet grace. Her dark eyes, sharp and observant, missed nothing, the way a customer's lip curled when she refilled their wine, or how they'd clutch their purses a little tighter when she passed. She'd been at the Gilded Fork for 6 years, long enough to know the game. Keep your head down, keep the tips coming, keep your son fed. Malik was her anchor, her reason. At 12, he was all lanky limbs and big dreams, his nose always buried in a book about space or coding. Tasha saw the world in his eyes, a world she wanted to give him, one far beyond their cramped apartment in East Atlanta, where the walls were thin and the dreams thinner. College was her plan, not just for her but for him. Every extra shift, every forced smile, every swallowed insult was for Malik. She'd tuck away crumpled bills in a coffee tin under her bed, whispering to herself, "One day, we'll get out." Tonight, the restaurant buzzed with its usual crowd, corporate types in tailored suits, couples dripping in diamonds, and the occasional celebrity hiding behind sunglasses. Tasha weaved through the tables, her black apron crisp, her braids pulled back tight. She was good at her job, too good, some of the other servers muttered. But Tasha didn't care about their jealousy. She cared about the $200 she'd make tonight if she played her cards right. As she cleared table 12, her fingers brushed something cold and hard beneath a pile of napkins. She paused, glancing around. No one was watching. She lifted the napkins and froze. A ring. Not just any ring, a diamond-encrusted wedding band, its stones catching the chandelier light like tiny stars. It was heavy, expensive, the kind of thing that screamed money. Tasha's heart skipped. Someone's going to miss this. She slipped it into her apron pocket, her mind racing. The right thing was to turn it into the lost and found, but the restaurant's policy was strict. Items went to the manager, who'd handle it. Tasha had seen too many lost items vanish into the manager's desk drawer. She'd hold on to it, just until the end of her shift, then hand it over herself. She wasn't a thief. She wasn't. The night was winding down when the front doors swung open, and Richard Thompson stormed in. The air shifted, the way it does when power enters a room. At 52, Richard was a real estate titan, his name plastered on half the skyscrapers in Atlanta. His gray suit was immaculate, his watch glinting under the lights, but his face was a mask of fury. Tasha, wiping down a table, felt the shift before she saw him. Conversations hushed. Heads turned. "Where's the manager?" Richard barked, his voice cutting through the dining room. The hostess, a nervous college student, scurried to find him. Tasha kept her head down, focusing on the table, but she could feel his presence like a storm cloud. Then his eyes locked on her. "You!" he shouted, striding toward her. Tasha straightened, her pulse quickening. "You waited on me last week, didn't you?" She nodded, her throat tight. "Yes, sir. Table 8. Don't play dumb with me." His voice was low now, dangerous. "My ring. It's gone. I left it here, and you were the one clearing my table." "Where is it?" The restaurant went deathly quiet. Tasha's mouth went dry. I don't know what you're talking about, sir." "Don't lie to me." Richard's voice rose, echoing off the polished floors. "You stole my ring. I know it was you." Tasha's hands shook as she reached into her apron pocket, fumbling for the ring she'd found. "Wait, sir, I found a ring tonight. I was going to save it," he snapped, stepping closer. "You think I'm an idiot? You thought you could pawn it, didn't you? People like you always do." The words hit like a slap. "People like you." Tasha felt the weight of every eye in the room. Patrons, co-workers, the manager now hovering nearby. Her chest tightened, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I didn't steal anything," she said. her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I found a ring under some napkins. I was going to turn it in." Richard scoffed, his face red. "Likely story. Call the police," he ordered the manager. "I want her arrested." Tasha's world tilted. "Arrested? Sir, please, I didn't." But the manager was already dialing, his face pale. The other servers exchanged glances, some smug, some uncomfortable. The patrons whispered, their phones discreetly raised to capture the drama. Tasha felt like she was drowning, the ring in her pocket burning like a coal. Within minutes, 2 police officers arrived. Tasha tried to explain, holding out the ring, but Richard's voice drowned her out. "She's lying. She stole it, and now she's trying to cover her tracks." The officers didn't listen. They cuffed her, the cold metal biting into her wrists. Tasha's eyes stung as she was led out, the restaurant's opulent glow fading behind her. She thought of Malik, waiting at home with his homework, unaware that his mother was being branded a criminal. At the police station, Tasha sat in a holding cell, her apron still on, the ring now in an evidence bag. Her mind raced. She'd done nothing wrong, but who would believe her? A black waitress against a billionaire? She knew how this story usually ended. She thought of Malik, of the college fund she'd been scraping together, of the life she'd promised him. All of it felt like it was slipping away. Meanwhile, back at the Gilded Fork, Richard was pacing the manager's office, demanding to see the security footage. "I want proof," he said, his voice still sharp but tinged with something else. "Doubt, maybe." The manager, eager to please, pulled up the tapes. The grainy footage rolled. There was Tasha, clearing table 12, her movements quick and efficient. She paused, lifting the napkins, her face registering surprise as she found the ring. She looked around, then slipped it into her pocket. Richard's jaw tightened. "See? I told you." But the manager kept the tape running. Minutes later, Tasha was seen walking toward Richard's usual table, her hand reaching into her pocket as if to pull something out. Then Richard stormed in, his voice booming through the speakers. Tasha froze, her hand dropping, her face a mix of shock and fear. She backed away, the ring still in her pocket, as Richard's accusations filled the room. Richard stared at the screen, his mouth suddenly dry. The footage was clear. Tasha had been about to return the ring. She hadn't stolen it. She hadn't even had a chance to explain before he'd unleashed his fury. "Oh God," Richard muttered, his hand running through his hair. "What have I done?" Richard arrived at the police station just as Tasha was being processed. She sat in a plastic chair, her face composed but her eyes distant, like she was bracing for the worst. When she saw Richard, her expression hardened. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low, almost broken. "I was wrong. I saw the footage. You were going to give it back." Tasha didn't respond. She stared at him, her silence louder than any words. Richard shifted, uncomfortable under her gaze. "I've already spoken to the officers. They're dropping the charges. This was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Tasha's voice was quiet but sharp. "You called me a thief. You had me arrested in front of everyone. You didn't even let me speak." Richard flinched. "I know. I was upset. I wasn't thinking." "You weren't thinking about me," Tasha cut in. "You saw a black woman with your ring and decided I was guilty. You didn't need proof. You just knew." Her words hung heavy in the air. Richard opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in years, he felt small. He spent the next week trying to make it right. He paid for a lawyer to ensure Tasha's record was cleared. He issued a public apology on social media, admitting his mistake and praising Tasha's integrity. The post went viral, with thousands of comments, some praising his accountability, others calling him out for his initial rush to judgment. Tasha saw the post but didn't respond. She wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. Then, one evening, Richard returned to the Gilded Fork. Tasha was back at work, her head held high despite the whispers that still lingered. He approached her table, not as a customer but as a man trying to make amends. "I'd like to offer you a job," he said. "At my company. Something stable, with benefits, a future. You're smart, Tasha. You deserve more than this." Tasha looked at him, her expression unreadable. She'd spent years dreaming of a way out, a better life for Malik. But this felt like charity, like a transaction to ease his guilt. She thought of the humiliation, the cuffs, the way her co-workers still looked at her differently. She thought of Malik, who'd cried when she told him what happened, his small fists clenched with anger at a world that hurt his mother. "No, thank you," she said finally, her voice firm. "I'm not here to be your redemption story." Richard blinked, stunned. "But I've got my own plans," Tasha said, cutting him off. "And I'll get there on my own." The incident changed Tasha. It wasn't just the humiliation or the fear, it was the realization that she'd spent too long letting the world define her. She enrolled in night classes at a community college, studying business with a ferocity that surprised even her. She kept working at the Gilded Fork, but now her tips went to something bigger, a non-profit she founded called Rise Up, dedicated to supporting Black women in the service industry. It offered scholarships, mentorship, and legal aid for those facing discrimination or wrongful accusations. Malik helped her design the website, his eyes shining with pride as he watched his mother build something unstoppable. Tasha's story spread, not because of Richard's apology, but because of her own work. Local news picked it up, then national outlets. Soon, donations poured in, and Rise Up grew, offering workshops and resources across Atlanta. Richard watched from a distance, his guilt slowly giving way to admiration. He donated to Rise Up anonymously, knowing Tasha wouldn't want his name attached. He'd learned his lesson, not everything could be fixed with money or power. Tasha never forgot that night, but she refused to let it define her. She graduated with her degree, her son cheering louder than anyone in the crowd. Rise Up expanded to other cities, becoming a beacon for women who'd been overlooked, underestimated, or wronged. Tasha's name became synonymous with resilience, her story a testament to the power of standing tall. One evening, as she tucked Malik into bed, he looked up at her and said, "Mom, you're like a superhero." Tasha laughed, ruffling his hair. "Nah, baby. I'm just me." But as she turned off the light, she felt it, a quiet strength, forged in fire. She hadn't just survived. She'd built something better, something hers. And no one, not even a billionaire, could take that away. Tasha's story didn't end with a fairy tale job or a billionaire's redemption. It ended with her rewriting her own narrative, proving that worth isn't measured by what others think of you but by what you build for yourself. Rise Up became a movement, a reminder that every woman deserves a chance to rise, no matter how many times the world tries to push her down. And Tasha, she was just getting started.